If you are wanting to learn how to sew, then this is the perfect project to start with. It is simple, it's practical, and you are going to walk away with so many skills that are going to carry over into many more sewing projects. So I'm going to teach you how to make a reusable bento bag. This can be used for anything from food to organizing to gifting, anything you think that you need to wrap in a bag. This bag is so simple and rewarding to make. And the best part about it is if you're a beginner, if you've never sewn anything before, this is going to teach you some really practical things like sewing a straight stitch, a hem, a backstitch, French seam, cutting and measuring fabric, preparing your fabric, and what sewing allowance is. These are all skills you'll need for future sewing projects, and you'll be able to use from here on out for any sewing project you want to make. And I know that starting is often the most difficult part of the process. But if you don't start, if you don't try, take that first step, you'll never get to those dream sewing projects that you desire to make. There are so many guides and resources out there, but one that I know will get you from point A to point B efficiently and effectively is Skillshare, the largest online learning community for creatives. And I would like to thank Skillshare for partnering with me on today's video. Skillshare is a trusted partner of this channel, and I love their learning paths. These are curated guides that are going to take you through each step of the process, whether you're learning how to make pottery or write a book or sew something. It's going to take the guesswork out of what to do next, where to go, and what step to take. It lays it all out before you with their learning path. So I know that you're here because you want to learn how to sew. I found the perfect learning path for you on Skillshare, and that is Learn to Sew. All the skills you need to make your own clothing. So to begin your learning path, you can be one of the first 500 people to click my link below. You'll get a month free trial of Skillshare and start on your sewing journey. So thank you for Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. I am so thankful to be working with such a creative community. Now let's get to the tutorial on how to sew a bento bag, which is the perfect first project when you're learning how to sew. For this project, you will need 1 yard of fabric, coordinating thread, fabric scissors or a rotary cutter, quilting ruler or yardstick, a seam allowance gauge, sewing machine, and a water-soluble pen, which is optional. You also want some pins to hold your fabric together. Take your fabric and prepare it by washing it, and then after it's dry, iron the fabric. Grab your straight edge and cut a 30 by 30 inch square from the fabric. If you're using a rotary cutter, you'll want a cutting mat underneath. If you're using fabric scissors, mark the line you want to cut with a water-soluble pen. This will wash away later. After your fabric is cut, fold one corner to the opposite corner to create a triangle. To make a crease, use the iron to press this long side. This will help you know where to cut. Cut along the crease and you should have 2 triangles. For the shorter edges, fold the edge toward the wrong side of the fabric 1/4 of an inch. Use your seam allowance gauge here or a ruler. Now press with an iron to get a crisp edge. Continue on the other side and repeat for the other triangle. Now go to your sewing machine and make sure you have installed coordinating thread and bobbin thread. You'll see here that mine doesn't quite match, but hopefully that will help you see what I'm doing more clearly. Fold the fabric once more, 1/4 inch to enclose the raw edge and create a hem. You'll be folding this as you go. Lift the presser foot and with the wrong side of the fabric facing up, slide the fabric under the presser foot. Lower the presser foot on top of the fabric. The needle should be hovering over the edge, lined up right alongside where the fold is. If you want to double check the needle placement, you should have a wheel on the side of your sewing machine that you can slowly turn and it will make the needle go down. And this will help you line up the needle perfectly. Press down on the pedal to lower the needle and begin sewing a straight stitch. Go slow and stitch 2 to 3 stitches. Now press the backstitch button or lever on your machine and hold it down to lock the first few stitches in place. Now release the button and continue pressing the pedal to keep straight stitching along the edge of the hem. It helps align the presser foot to the edge or a little left of the edge of the hem so you can watch where the stitch is going. Keep stitching until you're 1/2 inch away from the edge. Fold up the edge on the opposite side and slowly stitch until the needle is right on top of the fold. Stop stitching, lift up the presser foot, and pivot the fabric 90 degrees. Now lower the presser foot and keep stitching. When you reach the end, don't forget to backstitch like you did at the beginning. Repeat this for the other triangle. Now overlap the triangles like this where the long sides are on the outside with the right side of the fabric facing up. Take your pins and pin the overlapping fabric that has formed a square shape in the middle. If you need extra direction, you can use your straight edge and water-soluble pin to draw the square so you know where to stitch. Sew along the line around the square to connect the triangles. Don't forget to backstitch at the beginning and the end and pivot around the corners. Now cut off the excess strings. Fold the fabric in half with the wrong sides together. Usually you would do right sides together, but I'm going to teach you how to do a French seam, which means you'll have a clean finish on the inside and a strong seam. Take the long sides that are folded together and pin. To pin, I have learned to put the little ball or the dull side of the pin at the bottom and have the pin parallel to where the seam is going to go. This will make it easy to pull the pin out while you're sewing. Pin both sides together. Take this to your sewing machine and use your seam allowance gauge. Line the fabric under the presser foot and needle 1/4 inch from the edge of the fabric. This is called your seam allowance. Begin stitching, backstitch, and then keep sewing until the end. Don't forget to backstitch when you reach it. Repeat this for the other side. Since the seam allowance is small, you don't need to trim away any fabric before moving forward. Turn the bag wrong side out and pull the fabric where you can iron the edge flat and crisp. Now at your sewing machine, line the fabric under the presser foot and needle where you'll create a 1/2 inch seam allowance. This is going to enclose the raw edge and create a French seam. Start sewing, backstitch, and sew to the end. Repeat this for the other side. Now for the final step. Turn the bag wrong side out and take your straight edge and draw a 45-degree angle across the corners of the bag. The quilting ruler makes it easy because it shows where the correct angle is. Draw with a water-soluble pen across the line and make a straight stitch on this line. This will flatten the corners to make the bag that can carry more things. You can trim off this edge and zigzag stitch across the edge to enclose the seam, or don't worry about trimming the excess. I love that you can make these in all different sizes for different uses, and you can make many of them and store them away next time you need to gift something to a friend, whether it be sourdough or a physical gift. Then you can just wrap it up in this little bag and it will make it even more special. For the next sewing projects that I recommend in your sewing journey, I would recommend our apron sewing pattern, which is perfect when you are learning how to follow a sewing pattern. I also recommend our pillowcase dress tutorial for girls, and this is in our free sewing pattern library. And there's also a drawstring bread bag. That's another next step for you if you are wanting to try out more sewing projects. And of course, if you are looking for more tutorials and sewing videos, then here is a playlist that will take you on a journey of sewing.